He was even worse than her brothers. The fact that he'd drawn them in, because when it came to family, anything Garrett knew, Will knew, was only the icing on the cake. She was trapped, and they both knew it. As tempting as stomping her foot and digging in her heels sounded, it wouldn't make her uncle respect her more. In fact, it was all but guaranteed to make him put her in the equivalent of the time-out chair for months. So she forced herself to unclench her teeth. "I'll be ready."
"Good. Text me when you're on the road."
"Of course." She hung up and only barely resisted the urge to fling her phone into the street. She wanted to call her brother and lay into him, but that wouldn't do any good. And she couldn't call her best friend Ridley either, because she was most likely attached at the hip to Garrett. As happy as she was that they'd figured stuff out, it was damned inconvenient right now. Her thumb traced the screen. She could call Will. He had a wonderful habit of cutting to the heart of things without letting messy emotions get in the way. But that was before he'd gone and fallen in love, and gotten engaged. He might try to help, but no doubt he had better things to do with his night than listen to her bitch about something that was beyond both of their control. Especially since things had been so weird since her brothers fell into love and relationships and engagements. She was happy for them, truly she was. But a part of her had always thought that the Reaver siblings would ride off into the sunset, single until the end of time. After all, they'd seen just how quickly marital bliss could turn into a nightmare that a person didn't simply walk away from. They crawled, broken and bleeding. That person you loved so much it consumed you could wake up one day and be a stranger. Everything you thought you knew about them suddenly a lie. If it could happen after 20 years of marriage, she didn't hold out much hope that anyone was safe. The only real law of life was change, and that proved double for people in relationships. She'd seen the horrible confusion and betrayal on her father's face, had heard him whisper the questions that had no real answers. Why are you leaving? Why aren't you happy anymore? Why don't you love us enough to stay? Sara really hoped her brother's happiness would last, but she wasn't about to throw her hat into the ring with a guy and hope for the best. Love couldn't hurt if she didn't give it a chance. With a sigh, she dropped her phone into her purse, doing her best to ignore the sliver of betrayal that always seemed to dig in when she thought about her brothers moving into the next stage of life. Sara turned and faced Serve. If she had one night of freedom left, she might as well enjoy it. Normally, she avoided this place. Both her brothers frequented it with depressing regularity, and her therapy bill was already high enough without adding seeing a sibling in a sexual situation to the list. But if Garrett was busy arranging a babysitter for her, he wasn't here, and Will and Penelope had plans tonight, of a non-kinky variety. The coast was as clear as it could possibly be. That meant at least something good would come from this fiasco. A little bounce worked its way into her step as she bypassed the line, gave the bouncer a quick peck on the cheek, and strode into another world. The owner of Serve, Jonah, was as hilarious as he was sexy. Newbies came in expecting NYC's premier BDSM club to be all dark and gothic and serious, but the reality was totally different. Everything was very tongue-in-cheek, from the DJs who favored Muse to the giant mouth framing the elevator up to the actual BDSM portion of the club. It made Sara grin every time she saw it. She didn't plan on wasting time with drinks tonight. If she only had one night, she intended to use it to the fullest. A little thrill went through her as she cut her way around the bar and grinned at the manager, Nolan. "Hey, handsome."
"Hey, yourself."
He was gorgeous, like all the employees there seemed to be. His hair like the best dark red wine, and his eyes a delicious deep brown. The difference between Nolan and everyone else was that Jonah trusted him enough to be in charge of the day-to-day operations.